Hi, my name's Tatum,
And I'm Leeanna.
and today we're here to talk to you about how you should get vaccinated, but more importantly, why you should critically think about it. So, we're nursing majors, and we've been learning a lot about vaccinations in our classes, and we find it really interesting that a lot of people believe that you shouldn't get vaccinated. So, we are wondering, why would you not? Just because that's how we grew up. But we want everybody to make informed decisions on why you should or why you shouldn't. And yeah.
So when it comes to point of view, it can be pretty black and white. Like either you decide to get vaccinated or you decide not to get vaccinated. But we need to look at the thinking processes that go into deciding between one or the other. Some people believe that you should do it just because it's what you've been told to do your whole life by your doctor or your parents or even like the school system. Meanwhile, others believe that you shouldn't based on what other people have said, such as like an article that was produced a few years back by Andrew Wakefield. Um, but we need to look at the information provided before we come to a decision on whether to do it or not to do it.
So, a great place to start with why people have decided in the past to not vaccinate their children is from the Andrew Wakefield study. Wakefield and some of his colleagues published a case series in which he suggested that the MMR vaccine, which prevents measles, mumps, and rubella, may predispose to behavioral regression and pervasive development disorder in children. This publication caused parents across the world to decide against vaccinating their children out of fear of the risk of autism and resulted in measles outbreaks in the UK in 2008 and 9, as well as pockets of measles in the USA and Canada. As we'll come to see, these parents did not use critical thinking on the issue. Evidence existed, but was it sufficient? The question at issue was the relationship between the MMR vaccine and autism. Initially, the information that Wakefield collected pointed to a correlation between the two, or that's how he made it seem. However, looking in depth at this information refutes this as being a possibility, as the children's behavior and circumstances were far more complex than Wakefield wanted to address.
The study was done on a sample size of 12, which is far too small to conclude that something is true about an entire population.
In addition, the experiment was uncontrolled in design, relying on the parents' description of the child's behavior before and after receiving the vaccine. So they didn't have a professional in to decide if the child was acting different or not. This creates an issue of accuracy, seeing that it was determined the cause of the change in behavior was due to autism, without first eliminating other possible reasons for behavior change in the child. Also, the parents could have potentially misrepresented the child, and Wakefield did not consider this in his publication. Researchers ultimately determined that his study was not logical, saying that the combination of the given evidence was not mutually supportive, and the article was refuted and declared fraud.
Vaccinations have been around for decades. There has been so much scientific research done to support the importance of it. For example, a systematic review of factors affecting vaccine uptake in young children. In 2015, almost 6 million children died globally before the age of 5, with over half of those being caused by a preventable infectious disease. In addition, children and adults who cannot be vaccinated rely on herd immunity in order to keep themselves safe. Reasons for not being able to be vaccinated include age, poor health, and those who are immunocompromised or those who are going under chemotherapy. Deciding either for or against vaccination involves thinking to some extent. Deciding against it because of evidence such as the Wakefield study involves using false or insufficient evidence that hasn't been checked for clarity or accuracy. You then have a misconstrued interpretation of what the consequences will be. For example, in the case involving autism, many parents decide that avoiding autism is more important than avoiding measles, mumps, and rubella. Similarly, some parents do not consider the consequences as plausible, so they avoid vaccinations altogether, which can potentially result in obtaining a deadly disease. This is a psychological theory known as personal fable, where you essentially believe you're invincible and there are little to no chances of anything bad ever happening to you. They would be considered intellectually arrogant because they think they know more than they actually do about the possibilities and consequences. On the other hand, there are parents who do not get their child vaccinated due to the lack of knowledge on the matter. In many cases across the world, information on vaccinations are not readily available, so parents aren't able to critically think about the idea of it.
However, if you're given the chance to vaccinate, you should use critical thinking to determine whether or not it's right for you. The purpose of deciding to become vaccinated is dependent on whether or not you believe that it's a valuable method of keeping you safe from deadly disease. By the information given to support this claim, we can come to the conclusion that vaccination is, in fact, a sufficient protection method. The evidence shows clarification on what happens to our population without vaccinating and can be used as a relevant answer to our question on the effectiveness of it. By using the trait confidence in reason, we can come to the conclusion that vaccinating is not only best for our own health, but also best for the health of those around us.
So overall, we should try our best to have rational control of our beliefs, values, and inferences. Although what you do with your body is ultimately up for you to decide, we highly suggest considering getting vaccinated based on the given evidence and taking into consideration the possible consequences of not being vaccinated.
And we should value your own self and also others. And I think with everything we talked about today, you can make your own decision. So, what will you choose? Thank you.